Pastor Mark has been a member of this church for 20 years, has been attending here for 20 years. And it's cool that God brought him back here to be our youth pastor after he studied at Christ for the Nations, youth ministry there. And he's a good youth pastor. I say this, I'm happy my kids have him as their pastor. Amen? So, the guy who's been here 20 years, I think he's got something to say. So let's welcome Pastor Mark. Woo! Woo, 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 woo.
Thanks. Oh. Good evening. Let me get set up here. So, Ben asked me to come preach at the men's. And I was kind of like intimidated, actually. I think it's easier to preach to the whole church than the men's ministry, actually. For example, on the last Wednesday I preached at the Youth Wednesday. You know, you're up here and some people are paying attention, some people are involved, and some people are kind of like, get me out of here, why did I come? But I was like, I was just making a look at Brenda John the whole time because she's like, oh yeah, amen. Amen. I was like, all right, I'm preaching to her. Sometimes us men, we get kind of just, I'm just going to sit here and watch. But I think tonight the message is going to be very applicable to our lives, all of us. And I hope that this isn't necessarily like a men's message. This is a broad message, but it's one, I went through about 4 or 5 sermons before I got to this one for tonight. I was like, I should preach on this. And then I'm like, no, I should preach on this. I got halfway through one, and doing all this stuff. I'm like, no, I don't want to preach that. Oh, we got music. It's inspiring, like my shirt. I was going to make you guys Pledge of Allegiance to my shirt, but I thought that would be conceited. Oh, yeah, she's playing Rocky over there. She's got, like, the punching bag and she's got everything up over there. It's awesome. I was like, man, I might sneak over there, but I got to preach over here. So tonight I want to talk to you guys about the God of Jacob. It's kind of a basic title, generic title. But by the end, I think it's going to mean a lot more than what it means to you right now. That's my goal, to get you to understand what I hear when I hear the God of Jacob. So I'm going to start tonight. I got several scriptures. Most of them are going to be in Genesis. I usually don't like to hang out in Genesis because people start asking all kinds of questions. Did the flood really cover the whole earth? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But tonight we're going to talk about Jacob, so we got to stay in Genesis. But I'm going to start in Genesis 32. And I'm going to go 22 through maybe 29, maybe more, maybe less. So I'm going to just read, and then I'm going to start the sermon here. So that night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives. That's not what we're talking about tonight. His 2 female servants, we're also not talking about that, and his 11 sons, definitely not talking about that, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone. He was left alone. I think sometimes God speaks to us better when we're left alone. You know what I mean? I try to talk to the youth. I'm like, turn off the electronics. Just maybe once in a while, just turn everything off and actually be alone. I think one of the fears of our modern culture is we hate to be alone with ourselves. And I think that's a fear of a lot of men. Don't like to be alone with myself. Don't want to actually reflect on myself. And that's kind of going to be what we're going for tonight here. And as he was left alone, a man wrestled with him until daybreak. So he was at night, wrestled to him to daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched, and he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, what is your name? So apparently these guys have been, just wrestling all night, and now they're getting the introductions. Interesting. But Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God, with humans, and have overcome. Jacob said, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? And then he blessed him there. Okay, that's the scripture I want to use for us tonight. That's kind of the home of our topic tonight here. But he blessed them there. So I tell you tonight, the God of Jacob. And what I want you to understand tonight or get out of tonight is I want to talk about the conflict between who we really are and who we want to be. The conflict between who we really are and who we want to be, right? The conflict between who we are now and who we think we're supposed to be for other people. Albeit wife, work, just hanging out with the guys. You kind of understand what I'm talking about a little bit, I think, is we have this pull to want to be this or want to be that. Anybody have different social groups of people you interact with? When I was out in Carlisle, my in-laws, I guess, they're like country, okay? They're country. And I have to, if you don't talk about cars with Danelle's dad, he's just gone. It's like he's got a Chevelle in the garage and stuff, and he does cars. And you talk about anything else, if you don't talk about NASCAR, cigarettes, alcohol, or just regular cars, you lost them. It's hilarious. But when you speak with him, you're kind of in a different social state. You try to be something more. You know what I'm talking about? You ever walk up to somebody and they start talking about something, you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm going to pretend I know what they're talking about. Anyways, so I want to take you through this kind of concept through the lens of Jacob. Jacob is complicated, if you know about Jacob. He is complicated. A lot of people from the Bible are actually complicated. If I want to talk about being complicated, I could have talked about Noah, building an ark, saving humanity, and then kind of doing some weird things that we don't like to talk about. Abraham, the father of many nations, also a liar. We could go on and on. David, that's a whole messed up situation, right? We talk about the Bible's full of complicated people. The Bible has every single person in the Bible, even Jesus kind of seems complicated at times. Peter's like ready to jump up and Jesus is like, get behind me, Satan. He's like, oh, sorry. Obviously, if Peter didn't get it and Peter's with him all the time, Jesus was even complicated to other people, right? But I could talk about, Peter too, denying he knows Jesus after he calls him friend, right? But if you're complicated, I'm complicated. If you're complicated, you got plenty of company in the Bible to go with, okay? So I think we always try to think, I'm complicated. People don't understand what I'm going through. Yeah, everybody's complicated in a way, right? And I have this, don't ever listen to a pastor or a church. And I know Pastor Dave doesn't say it, so I can say this. But don't ever go to a church where they say God only works with perfect people. Don't ever go to a church where God only works his promises, his will through people that have perfection. Because God uses complicated people. God uses people with flaws and defects and shortcomings, which is great, I think, because if it were the other way around, we'd be saved by works and not by faith. But this is not a bio on Jacob. This is a story about us too. I want you to see this through Jacob's eyes. So we have Jacob involved in a wrestling match here in this section of Scripture, right? We have Jacob, he's wrestling. This isn't the first time Jacob was wrestling and fighting. In fact, Jacob pretty much spent his whole life just roughing it up with people and trying to get around things and trying to get through things. And even before he was born, Jacob was already wrestling, which I think is an awesome thing to say. Be like, yeah, I was fighting before I was even born. You go into like MMA. People are like, I've been fighting for 10 years. You're like, I was fighting in the womb. But in Genesis 25, verse 21, I'm going to start there. If you want to turn to it, you can turn to it. I think it'll be on the screen. Yeah. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf. So Isaac is Jacob's father. Isaac prayed for his wife to get pregnant because she didn't get pregnant. And the Lord answered his prayer. Some of you are like praying for the opposite, maybe. I don't know. But no, please. But you have him praying this prayer with his wife, and his wife Rebecca gets pregnant. And the babies jostled each other within her. And here comes this birth. She's coming up on this birthing process. She goes in, and we can bring it in modern terms. She gets her sonogram, comes in. They get the gooey crap all over her belly and stuff, and look inside, and they're like, oh man, first of all, it's twins. Second of all, they're actually fighting right now. This is really, I've never seen this before, right? So that's what's going on in the womb. And the woman says, "Why is this happening to me?" Right? And so she went to inquire to the Lord, and the Lord said, "There's 2 nations in your womb. The 2 people from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first came out and was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau, which means red. Cool. After this, his brother came out with his hands grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. What does Jacob mean? Supplanter. Do you know what Jacob also means? Heel grabber. Heel grabber. Jacob came out on the heels of Esau. Okay? So he gets this name, and it means some other things. It does mean deceiver. It means a lot of different things. But one of the big things it means is heel grabber. That's why they named him Jacob, because he was grabbing at the heels. So Jacob's basically stuck with the name heel grabber for the rest of his life. You know, ever meet somebody where they name their kids and you're like, what? Why would you do that to your kid? Like, it's cute now, but like when they're 13 and on, they're going to hate you. You know, how about Peekaboo Street, right? But they're stuck with some, and some of us are stuck with some things that we did early on that later on we're like, crap, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't identify with that anymore. And so you have Jacob trying to get ahead, still behind though. And at this time, being the firstborn was huge. Being the firstborn meant you got way more of the inheritance. You got the blessings, you got the birthright, you got all these things. So you were like, if you were second by a second, you were, man, that sucked, right? I know we have Caitlin and Jackie, your twins, and I always make fun of Caitlin for being, 6 minutes late, right? I'm like, oh, that's right, but Jackie was here first, so she wins. And Caitlin gets so mad. She's like, oh, it was 6 minutes, or whatever it was. But anyways, so he has this. He's trying to get out first, and he's grabbing at the heels of Esau. But he was born second, but still grabbing, reaching, trying to attain something more. And I think our culture is much like a heel grabber, okay? I think our culture is reaching out, trying to get ahead, trying to pull what's up, me first. I got to get first. Oh, come on. No, not you, me. Oh, man, that guy has this much money, and I'm close. If I could just make a little bit more, I'll have this much money. If I could just reach out and grab on the heels and pull myself ahead. I think our culture is me first. And what's amazing to me is you don't need to teach kids how to say mine. You don't really need to teach them how to say I want. You got to teach them how to say thank you and please, right? But naturally, inside, we are born with a me first mentality. And our instinct is me first from the very beginning. And some would argue, well, that helps with survival and whatnot. But then we walk into a culture of me first. We walk into an entire marketing structure of me first. Me first, me first. We were at the conference here on Saturday in Reading, the Outcry conference, and there was a store we stopped at, it was fun. We stopped at Subway to use the bathroom because couldn't find a bathroom. I don't know if you guys have been to Reading. It's a little sketchy. But there's like no public bathrooms we could find, so we stopped at Subway to use the bathroom, and you have to buy something to use their bathroom. So like everybody's waiting in line, and they're literally like watching it like guards. They're like, you don't have anything. And so we were there for like 30 minutes to let a couple people go to the bathroom. But anyways, right beside there was a store that said, everyone deserves an iPhone. Everyone deserves an iPhone. That's what it said, and they were selling, obviously, phones. And we were kind of making fun of it at the time, like, everyone deserves an iPhone. You're entitled to have an iPhone. That's something. I'm like, let's put this sign in a third world country and see what they think of this sign. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, I'm like, man, that's... Anyways, and... That was completely off topic, but I just remembered that. Anyways, so you have this me first mentality, but I have this question. I said, how can we even begin to have a God first focus in a me first culture? That's extremely difficult. We struggle with it all the time. How to put God first, but it's me first. Everything is me first. I watch TV. It's me first. Drive on the roads. A lot of people, it's me first, right? You know, you got everybody lined up, and then that one guy goes down the shoulder and like cuts in and stops everybody else, and you like want to get out and bless them. Anyways, so Matthew 19:30 says this. It says, but many who are first will be last. We all know this one. Many who are last will be first. And I think maybe if Jesus said that now, we'd be like, Jesus, do you even live in the real world? Like, do you even get it, Jesus? Like, that doesn't work. Being last makes you last. I don't know if anybody's seen Talladega Nights, but the dad's sitting with Ricky Bobby, and he's like, if you're not first, you're last. You know, if you're second, you're last. If you're not first, you're last. And that's the way a lot of men think. That's just the way we think. We think, you know, if I didn't win, like number one, I lost. You know, when someone gets second and they just miss first, and they're like devastated. You're like you beat 500 people, but you didn't beat one more, and you're really, really upset. And that's a pretty good analogy for how some of us walk our lives. Not just men, but I'm just speaking to men. So I don't want to like blast men here. But anyways, if you spend your life grabbing at heels, trying to get me first, it's exhausting. And in fact, if you do that, it's miserable. If the greatest revelation you can have is, I need to get mine for me, I think it's kind of a really sad and pathetic life. I mean, I hate to say it like that. It sounds terrible, but you reach the end and you realize the only person I ever cared, the greatest thought I ever had was, what can I do for myself? You see what I'm saying? And Jacob's kind of coming out of the womb like, I got to get out first. It's about me. I got to get out first. And Luke 9:25, I have this one too. You guys can write them down. You don't need to necessarily turn to these. These are short. Is where Jesus, one of my favorite Bible verses in the Bible, says this in Luke 9:25. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet lose or forfeit their very self? All right, what good is it to gain fame, fortune, money, success, whatever it is, and lose yourself? And Jesus is saying, basically, Jesus in this verse, is saying this. He's saying, look, and I could use anybody's name, but I'm going to use Jacob, because we're pretending we're Jacob here. But Jacob, you know, you could say Ron or whoever, Pastor Dave. Pastor Dave's perfect. We can't talk about him. That's right. I can't use Pastor Dave as any illustrations ever, unless he's God in his illustration. All right. That was in my contract when I signed. Just kidding. All right. But Jesus is saying this. He's saying, Jacob, if you grab after stuff, if you grab after status, if you grab after success, if you grab after security, you only find out that it left you farther behind, because in the process of grabbing for the stuff and the status and the success and the security, you lost yourself along the way. I know so many people that will give their entire life over to get a little bit of security. I work with teenagers, and now it's church is not so bad, but if you see like an after-school event or walk down, if you visit the schools and you see what the girls wear, I mean, if they have I'm just talking around here, but if they have a dress code, like they're going to be on the line of the dress code. Like that's just, you know, how close can I get it? What's the limit that I can get short or low, right? And so these girls, they run around and they're like, you know, I want to find attention. I want to run for attention. And what is it to gain all that attention when it's the bad kind of attention, right? I see girls, but then I see the boys, the guys. Where'd Tyre go? About to fight him. There he is. All right. I thought you left. I was like, what? He's back there. He's listening. All right. But you have the boys. And I think it might even be worse for them, honestly. I think you have the guys who are told, you know, you gotta act hard. If you're a boy and you're compassionate and caring and giving and loving, no way. Now, you can't be that in school. You get taken advantage of. You get made fun of. You get talked down to. You got to be hard. You got to be tough. You got to be good at something. You got to be skilled and successful and never mess up. Don't trip. Don't mess up your words. Don't have anything awkward ever happen to you. Don't get acne. Don't get a weird haircut. Don't wear the wrong clothes. Don't. Do all this so you can gain popularity and lose yourself in the process. I mean, that's really what essentially boys go through too. Girls go through it, boys go through it. High school is really toxic with that, but it still travels out into the rest of our lives. But me first doesn't work. Jacob came out grabbing at heels and still came out second. Doesn't that sting? But anyways, let's jump somewhere here. Let's jump somewhere else. So aside from Jacob meaning heel grabber, I think Brad said it, it also means deceiver. Okay? Anybody know why Jacob might mean deceiver? Does anybody know a story about Jacob? He kind of uses deception. Anybody remember that one? Aha, yep, thank you. All right. You all get points because Brad answered it. It's all right. Just kidding. All right, but aside from that, I mean, it's me heel grabber. Esau, his brother, his older brother, was strong, was fit, was a hunter, was skilled. You know, QB, the quarterback of the high school football team. He's the guy, right? And Jacob liked to dwell among the tents. If I can put it in modern day vernacular, Esau was a daddy's boy. Jacob was a mommy's boy, okay? He was inside, he was cooking. Nothing wrong with cooking, right? But you guys are like, yeah, cooking, but give me a grill. And let me tell you what. I know something about cooking on a grill. But anyway, so he liked to be among the tents. And so Jacob would cook what Esau would hunt and kill and skin, probably do all the work. And then, Esau would cook it. But Jacob eventually, and this is just a small thing, but he sells Esau a bowl of beans for Esau's birthright. Esau is so hungry that he sells his birthright over for basically a bowl of beans. All right? That's not what we're talking about here, but if I could talk about it, I could probably talk about a lot of us giving up what we want for what we want now. That could be a whole nother sermon, but I'm going to keep going because I want to get to the blessing. To get an inheritance, you need the birthright and the blessing, right? So we just got the birthright down for a bowl of soup, some Campbell's, chunky. But we have the blessing here. When you're a heel grabber, you can't ever get enough. When you run like Jacob, trying to find success, trying to reach out, trying to get by works, you can never have enough, okay? And so pride obviously isn't happy with more or something good. Pride is always wanting to be better than everyone else, right? If you're rich, you got to be richer than the other rich. If you want to have success, you want to be more successful. And pastors run into this too, right? I got this many people. Everybody runs around. I feel like some pastor conventions, they just sit there and they're like, yeah, I got 1,000 people. And they're like, I got 1,005. They're like, dang it. You know what I mean? And it's just silly sometimes how we get into this, I have to have more. And if you're smart, you want to be smarter than everybody else in the room. Adam, if you're more ripped, you got to be rippeder. I'm just kidding. But we have all these ers. We got to be the pride that sets in. We got to be, so Jacob has the birthright, but he needs more, all right? And so he's more, birthrighter, I guess. We have these ers that we got to get more with pride. And ironically, Isaac was born in the land of Ur. I don't know if you guys knew that. But I think some of us live in the land of Ur sometimes, depending on what it is. If it's whatever it is, we live in the land of Ur. And the thing about Ur is there's always Ur. So if you're rich and you got richer than the guy down the street, there's the guy across the county that's richer than the guy across the street and you, right? You try to get to the top, there's always someone up there because there literally can only be one at the top. And even if you get there, we're all mortal and we all eventually fall apart and someone else takes our place. So pride is literally in vain, basically. So Jacob stole the birthright, and now he wants the blessing. So Isaac, his dad, was getting old. Like I think he's in his 90s or no, I think he was 100-something here. But he's going blind. He's getting senile. You know, he's getting up there, and he's kind of like, all right, I got to give my birthright. I got to give the blessing out now because I'm starting to reach my latter years. All right, and so he says, Esau, listen, my oldest son, it's time to give you the blessing. I want you to go out and hunt and find a big meal and bring it back and cook it, and we'll celebrate, and I'm going to give you the blessing. And Rebekah, you know, remember, Jacob's mama's boy. Rebekah overhears it, and she's like, hey, Jacob, come here. Listen, I got this set of Esau's clothes. We're going to put them on, and we're going to put some goat hair on you, which sounds really kind of gross. We're gonna, because, you know, Esau is hairy, and dress you up like Esau, and we're going to trick Isaac, your dad, into thinking you're Esau, because you already have the birthright. Now all you need is the blessing, all right? And so Rebekah has this idea, and they dress up, and they do all this stuff. I can read it here. In Genesis 27:15, I'll read it quick. Then Rebekah took out the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son. This is Genesis 27:15. She also covered his hands with the smooth part of his neck with goat skin. Then she handed to her son the tasty food and bread that she had made. And he went to his father and said, my father. And yes, my son, he answered, who is it? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of the game so that you may give me your blessing. And Isaac asked the question, how did you find it so quickly? And Isaac says this. He says, the Lord your God help me. I think sometimes things sound spiritual, but they're not. But I don't want to get into that. I got like other sermons in this sermon that I don't want to preach. But then Isaac said to Jacob, he said, come near so I can touch you, my son, and know that whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like his other brother Esau. So he went and proceeded to bless him. Are you really my son Esau? He asked. I am, he replied. Okay, but then Esau comes back. All right, remember, mama's boy, daddy's boy, cook, hunter. Spear usually beats frying pan. So we have Isaac tricking, using the con arts, getting into stuff, and oh crap, here comes the guy that can beat me up, and probably actually has knives and stuff on him right now because he's coming back from hunting. And Esau finds out, and he's like, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill my brother. You know, he just took everything. And so, you know, Jacob, being the smooth man he is, I don't know what his plan was. Like he's gonna, whatever. Anyways, so he ran. He ran away. So we have this great con artist mastery to steal a blessing, and he got the blessing and he ran. I think sometimes we want a blessing so bad that we do whatever we can do to get it, and then we realize the means we used to get it was terrible and we don't want it anymore. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, well, I want to get this much money, and so you're working and you're putting in 60 hours a week, and you miss your family, and you're like, man, you know, all the stuff I put into this, maybe it wasn't worth a little bit of extra money to buy something or whatever it is. I don't want to pick on hard work, and I'm not going to talk against that at all, but just that idea. And I think what's really cool here is he says, I'm Esau, and he wants a blessing. And maybe Isaac can give him a blessing, but God doesn't bless him at this point. And I think, well, I shouldn't think, I'm certain that God can't bless us while we pretend to be somebody else. And now I'm getting there. I'm bringing some strings together here a little bit. So the difference between the conflict between who we are and who we wish we were, sometimes we come to God as who we wish we were. And we put on the goat skin, we put on the clothes of who we think we should be, who we think God will want us to be, and we go to God and ask for blessings and ask for this and ask for that, and God's like, you're not Esau, you're Jacob. You're the one that came out. You're the one behind. You're the one that's weaker. And it's like, no, God, I'm Esau. You won't bless me if I'm Jacob. I got to be Esau. I got to be you see what I'm saying? And I think I know he can't bless Jacob here because he dressed like Esau. And I don't know about everybody else, but I know for me there's the same conflict. There's the me, and then there's the me I wish I was, right? There's the me I try to be. There's the me I want to be for other people, right? And it's the me as I hope to be, the me as I would want to be, like a politician, right? That's what I think of. And if I was that me, I know, I'm like, man, I would be gifted at a lot of things. Really good. I would never mess up words. You would vote for me if I was running for something, right? Like I would be, oh man, if I could just be the me that I wish I was. That Esau me, that other me. And I'd have a 6-pack or 8-pack and eat anything I wanted. It'd be great. That'd be awesome. But that's not the real me. And I would suggest that maybe some other people in this room run the same way sometimes, where it's not the real you that you're trying to be or wish you were. And it's the things that keep us men up at night because we don't like talk about that kind of stuff, right? We like to keep that stuff on the DL. We don't like, I said the DL. Man, this is 1990. All right, sorry. This is the stuff we like to keep just kind of hidden and behind because we don't like to necessarily talk about those things all the time as men. Women tend to talk about it a little bit more than us sometimes. Sometimes a little, keep talking. But I think everybody here has another you that you think of that you want to be. And there's the you and the you that you want to be. There's the show you put on. There's the way you talk or whatever it is. And a lot of us, I see this with younger guys. I just know more younger guys. I see it with them is there's the them, okay? And there's the them they want to be. And then in between is everyone else's fault about why they're not over here. Well, my boss, he won't let... Oh, my wife. Oh, school. I went to a public school. I went to this school or that school. Oh, it's not my fault. I didn't have enough money. I wasn't raised in a upper class family. Oh, I didn't have the opportunity. Excuses, right? About why they can't be that person. I see that all the time. I think that's one of the things that millennials get slammed for a lot. But, anyways, I see that, and I think we learn in our culture to wear Esau's clothes. And we might be able to fool Isaac, but we can't fool ourselves. And that's what stinks. We're like, oh, I can trick my neighbor into thinking I got it all together, but I can't trick God. I can't trick myself. I know it. God knows it, but I'm trying to show somebody else, right? And so Jacob got the blessing, but he lost himself. All right. So it'll take Jacob 21 years to understand and see what we're talking about right now. Okay? So 21, after he runs from Esau, after he runs away, 21 years he's on the run, and things happen. He gets married twice, and there's a whole story there that's fun to go through. But he gets married, has some kids, and all of this, and he decides, I'm going to head back home. Perhaps Esau will forgive me. All right? And so Jacob was working all that time and doing this and that. I think he kind of got a little bit of the life he thought he wanted, a little bit of it, realized I want to go back home. I thought I wanted this, and now I'm kind of like, I want to go back home and make things right with my brother. It's eating away at me. I think a lot of times for us, we have things that eat away at us that we try to fix by doing other things. If we leave a relationship with somebody, like a friendship with somebody over bad terms, you just try to pretend it never happened. I could use my dad for a lot of illustrations. I'm trying not to, but I'll use them for this one. My dad, my biological dad, divorced my mom when I was 8, which I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, so I'm not saying anything. But he left her, and there's this whole big thing. But they actually met because of my mom's friend was married to my dad's friend, and they kind of got them together and hooked them up, all right? And so they got a divorce about, I think it was like 10 years after they got married, something like that. And my dad's best friend was stuck between, his wife was mad at my dad, so his wife and his best friend were kind of not on good terms, and he didn't say anything, and he just kind of let his wife do whatever. So my dad in 1995 stopped talking to his best friend and still won't talk to him. And I know it eats away at him because, as you guys might see coming up, my dad actually tried to take his life a couple years ago. And that was one of the things he kind of regretted. He was in the hospital. I went to visit him, and I said, "What about him?" And he's like, "Oh, he did this and that." And I'm just like, So? Right? You ran away all this time. And anyways, so Esau's mad at Jacob, and Jacob's coming back to Esau. All right? And so, whoa, I went way too far. All right. So before he meets with Esau, though, he's on his way back. He wrestles with God, but doesn't know it. How old is Jacob at this point? Does anybody know? I didn't tell you. I could have told you earlier, but I was gonna sneak it in. Okay, let me tell you this. All right, ready, Brad? I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, he was 76 when he stole the blessing from Esau. What? Then he's on the run for 21 years. So 97. If that's public school math. 97, I think I got this. 97 years old, and he's wrestling. I think it's funny that his hip went out of joint. He's wrestling, all right? So it's cool, though. I think it makes the story even better. He's not some young, arrogant, jerk. He's someone who's been through life, has experience, has been through things, has lost things, has gained things. Not, just young and dumb and trying to figure out life, but he should have some concept, which actually makes me wonder about why his mom had to still stick up for him when he was 76. But anyways, so he went through some things, and he's been grabbing for things his whole life, reaching out, trying to get ahead, trying to get a wife, trying to do this, trying to do that. And this is the first time when he meets this wrestler that something grabs back. Everything else eludes him, and he has to work and try to get it. This is the first time where he meets somebody that literally, if you know wrestling, not WWE, this is not. It's not that. But it comes out, and they grapple, and they wrestle all night long. And so Jacob's hip goes out, and the sun comes up, and that the other guy, who scholars believe is like some form of Jesus or something like that, let me go. The guy says, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." And Jacob says, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." All right? And I think for us, sometimes you can judge your faith, personal faith, not other people's faith, but your faith, by, do you let God go when it would be easier to let God go? Or do you hold on to him when it would be easier to let God go? See, it would be easier. Jacob's hips out. He's probably in pain. He's old. He's, 97 is pretty up there. Of course, they lived a little bit longer back then. But he's holding on even though it hurts. And he's holding on even though he's in pain. He's holding on even though it's a struggle. And I think, personally, that same tenacity that made him a con man, made him run around, try to get things, kind of trained him for this moment to just hold on and not let go. All the experiences of life taught him to hold on and not let go. And I think sometimes we should decide, too, personally, I want this bad enough. I'm sick of talking and not performing. I'm sick of making promises and not following through with them. I'm sick of posturing and pretending and posing and perfecting and giving up and all these things. I'm sick of it. I got to hold on to God, though. I got to hold on to God a little bit harder this time. I'm not going to just, use God when I'm feeling happy. There's two types of people I notice in ministry, as far long as I've been in ministry. There's the people that, well, there's more than this, but there's two people that let God go. There's the people who let God go when everything's going right and everything's good. And they got money, and they got, free time, and they're doing good, and then something happens, and they're back in church, and they're like, can you help me out? I need some money. I haven't been here in a year, but now things are rough, and I came back to God for help. Or there's the people that, the opposite, that it's like, you see them when everything good, and they come to church, and like, oh, my life's great, and then things start going bad. They're like, well, I don't want to tell anybody about that, right? Not talking about anybody in this room at all, just other people. But I would say this, don't tap out. You might be winning in your situations, don't let God go. You might be losing in your situations, don't let God go. It doesn't matter which one you are. And I think you have Jacob here who was holding on to Esau, holding on to trying to be the firstborn, holding on to these blessings, holding on to Esau, and didn't get anything out of it. But the very first time he switches and he's holding on to God, he gets his blessing. You see what I'm saying? I promise this is going somewhere. It seems a little scattered right now, but it does all come together nicely at the end. So we could even take it to us, and I'm letting go of what people think, what they say. I'm letting go of my past. There's a big one. But you can't do anything about your past anyways. But for us, as the sun comes up, we should still be holding on to God just like Jacob did. All right? And so the man asks for Jacob's name, right? They're wrestling. The morning comes out. He's like, let me go. I'm not going to let you go. And the Jesus figure says, what's your name? Right? See, now we're getting to this. All right. He says, what's your name? We've been through this before. We've just talked about it. Do you remember? Isaac is sitting in bed. He said, Are you really my firstborn son? Is that really you? Who is this? Oh, I'm Esau. Oh, I'm Esau. No, I'm Esau, I promise. I might sound like Jacob, but I'm Esau. And when he was Esau, he tried to get Esau's blessing, right? Now it's time for Jacob to get Jacob's blessing. He says, I'm Jacob. This is me. I'm second born. I'm second place. I conned my own brother and he hates me. I got tricked by Laban and got the wrong wife first that I had to work another 7 years to get 6 or 7 to get the wife I wanted. I messed up so many things. I tricked him for his birthright over it. I'm this guy. I'm Jacob. All right? And that's when Jacob, I can read it here. The man asked him, what is your name? And Jacob answered, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. It's cool. Once he used his real name, he got the blessing from God. I think as people, as Christians, we use our who we want to be name a lot. We use our successful, all the things we've done right, not the things we've done wrong. We use all those things. We run out with this fake name in front of us, and we say, this is me. We hide behind it like a mask. And we say, God, bless my mask. And he can't, because we're showing him a mask. And he's waiting for us to be like, look, God, I'm hurting. I'm broken. I messed up. I screwed this up. I know that I have strength through you. I know that I have wisdom through you. I know I'm better with you than without you, God. But I'm not going to pretend I don't need you as much as I really do. And I think that personally, I don't want to get there yet, actually. But anyways, so he got a new name, but he also got a new identity with Israel, okay? He gets a new name and a new identity the second he calls himself who he really is. And Israel means triumphant with God, all right? And what's crazy to me about this is, so God changes his name. Name change. Boom, on the spot. You would think that the rest of the Bible would start saying, and then Israel came out, and Israel, but it goes back and forth. It's like Jacob, Israel, Jacob, Israel. We talk about Jacob being complicated. I think that we get a new name. We're a new creation in Jesus. Sometimes we think that means we shouldn't struggle anymore, that things shouldn't be complicated anymore. But things are still complicated even as a new creation. In fact, now you just kind of painted a bullseye on yourself anyways. I always think I shouldn't say this, but I always think it's funny when people do. They're like, the Lord's attacking me. And I'm like, or no, I'm sorry, the Lord. Satan's attacking me, right? Satan's attacking me. I can't. And I'm like, I don't want to be mean, but why? All you do is come to church and get angry. You don't pray. You don't tithe. You don't do anything. Like, why would Satan be like, oh, I got to command everybody to attack that person? You see what I mean? And then you see just pastors and people who are going through struggles because they're walking through with faith and God's with them. But Satan's shooting those fiery darts, but they're getting quenched. But they're still getting attacked. And it's amazing. Is it Billy Graham who had the security guards that would go in before him to check his rooms because women would hide like hookers would hide and jump out and try to get a picture with Billy Graham in his hotel room to defame his name. So he had to send security in, I think it was Billy Graham, to clear the room out because he was literally being attacked by people. But anyways, so we have this conflicting change here between Jacob's name. I use Evernote for my sermons. I think Pastor Dave might use it. Use Evernote at all? The app? Yeah. I use Evernote for all my sermons. All my sermons I've ever done are on Evernote, all the way back to like 2014. I have all my sermons on there. But if you run Evernote, it syncs up everything. Like if I type it on my computer, it shows up on my phone. It shows up everywhere at the same time, which is great. But if I lose connection, it says conflicting change because the version on my phone now isn't the same as the version on my computer. And I've done it before where like I was like just out of Wi-Fi range, in and out, and I had like 100 conflicting change notes on my thing. It just kept popping up. I'm like, what's going on? And there's this conflicting change between what I wrote down here and what I wrote down there. And I think that we have this same kind of conflicting change when we're like, I was lost and now I'm found. And I was broken and now I'm whole in God. I'm whole in Jesus. But man, something still hurts, or I still feel pain. I still experience this and that. And we kind of walk around like, well, there's kind of a conflict here. I feel like I should be Israel, but my emotions, I feel like Jacob. And I run around, which one am I? Even Christians go through this. Anyways, let's see here. I'm going to wrap it up with this. I think we're getting to the big finale, hopefully, here. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up with this. Jacob lived 97 years. He met all kinds of people, did all kinds of things. He even met God, all right? But the first time that he kind of really admits who he is to God is in this moment. So he meets all these people. He doesn't meet himself yet. And I think what's really cool is it's 97 years. And we think that's a little late, but hey, right? Better late than never. I know we have some people in the church who are coming up on retirement, hopefully, right? You're like, come on, retirement. But people just who, you're passing on through life. And I got graduates in high school, and they're like, it's going to be awesome. I'm like, yeah, well, good luck. But, school stinks. It's like you sit there, and you got to do some work. Like it's like go do a 9 to 5 in a stressful environment. But here's Jacob. He's 97. He finally kind of realizes he meets himself, and that's awesome to me that it took that long. But it's awesome that he still met himself. And then afterwards, he was Israel in God's eyes, but he still talked to himself about Jacob. But we're gonna flash forward, a little bit, many years later, where Jacob is dead. Jacob's dead, like dead, he's been dead, bones dead, okay? Jacob's dead, and we have a new character come in named Moses, right? And I got Exodus 3:13 is where I'm going to go next. This is going to be good. I hope this speaks to somebody in this room. Exodus 3:13. Moses said to God, okay, so he's the burning bush, all this. He says, go free my people. God says, go free my people, right, from the Pharaoh. And Moses is like, all right, I'll do this, but what do I tell them, right? He's like, how am I going to just tell the people, you know what I mean? How am I just tell people, well, God said? That kind of, you ever have somebody say God said, and you're like, no, he didn't, after they said what they said? God said that you're going to find $1,000 in the mail this week, and like, okay, sure. I mean, I'll take it when it comes, but come on, right? Down in Texas, there was a lot of people that would come out and be prophets in the malls, in Walmart, like the Walmart prophet. But they'd be like, I'm a prophet. For some reason, like prophets they're like, I'm a prophet. This is my level 1 of leadership, those guys. But I'm a prophet, and I'm going to tell you this, and you're like, oh, okay. But anyways, so we have Moses here, and he said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. I am the great I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Love that scripture. Talk about it all the time in youth group. I want to talk about what he says next. Oh, this is going to be good. All right, I feel it. All right. So God said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. That's not his name. God changed his name. What happened? Wait. God, you changed his name to Israel. And you said, this is your new name. This is the successful you. This is the you that's got on point. Why did God change back to the name Jacob? Because I'm thinking that should say Israel there. He changed his name and then went with it, run with it. That's his new name. And if I was God personally, that's what I would say. I'd be God of Israel, God of Abraham. It doesn't sound as cool though. Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, right? But he doesn't. He uses his old name. And that's the crux of the sermon that I want to get to you tonight is why didn't God choose the good side of Jacob's life, of Israel's life, right? Why did he say the God of Jacob? The God of the guy who was changed in that wrestling match. Why doesn't he talk about that guy? The guy that was, he was kind of a backslidden Christian, then he became a real good worship leader Christian and did all that. Why did we go by the old name instead of the new name? You see what I'm saying? And he says, I think what God is trying to say through this, and this I might be reading into it too much, you can take it or leave it. I think it's still a good message. If you want to know who I am, God, I am, you need to understand that I am the God of Jacob too. You need to understand that I'm not just the God of the successful you, the you want to be. I'm the God of the you, right? We had the now we have the you. It sounds kind of strange, but I'm the God of Jacob. I'm the God of the part of you that you don't want anybody else to see. I'm not just the God of your successes, but I'm the God of your struggles. I'm the God of Jacob too. I'm not just the God of your victory. I'm the God in your defeats. I'm the God in your heartbreaks. I'm the God when things completely out of your control make things a little more difficult for you. I'm still God in those moments. I'm not just the God when you have everything right, you wore your favorite outfit and you feel good, you got the haircut and everything going on. You're like, yeah, all right, okay, I look good today. All right. Lost some weight maybe. And I'm not just that God, right? If I could be the God of the 210-pound you, I can be the God of the 190-pound you or whatever. You see what I'm saying? And I'm the God of Jacob, the God of all of us. Jesus was full of mercy, grace, truth, understanding, peacefulness, all these things, right? If you were the you wish you would be or the you think you should be, you wouldn't really need Jesus because you'd have everything. You'd have it all. You'd never make a mistake. You'd never mess up, right? I know I wouldn't want to mess up. If I could be perfect, right? I would be perfect. Jesus is not the God of the perfect people. Jesus is the God that makes imperfect people perfect, men and women. Jesus is the God that fills us up, right? He's the God to the hopeless, to the skeptic, to the backslidden. He's the God to the lonely and the insufficient. He's sufficient in us. So if we need him to be sufficient, that automatically means we're insufficient, right? Like you wouldn't need to fix something that's already sufficient. God's grace, God's grace is sufficient. He says he'll never leave or forsake us. He takes back the lost son, the prodigal son, the backslidden, the people who walk away. He takes them back. He clearly basically shows, I will take them back. I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not afraid of shortcomings. I'm not afraid of weakness. Because in your weakness, I can kind of come in there and make you strong, right? And so I want us to think about that. Just go home with that. The God of Jacob. What does that mean? You see why I called it that, the God of Jacob. It doesn't just mean, he's just, we just rattle the names off. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Father Abraham had many sons, whatever. But it means more to me when I think of Jacob as Jacob and not Israel. When I think of Jacob as the con artist, the guy messing up, instead of the guy who has everything. And I'm going to end it there because I think they're done, and I want to be done. It's 8:30, perfect on time. God, I just pray for the men here. And I think we got one woman in the back. That's okay. I just pray for them to remember this story as they go on through life and throughout their day, throughout their week, throughout their month and year, that they remember that you're not just the God of when they have it all or are doing all the right stuff, but you're the God that shows up even when we're feeling insufficient, inadequate, weak, because you are the truth in our lives. You are the strength in our lives. And let us depend even more on you in those moments. Let us hold on to you like Jacob held on to that man he was wrestling and not let go and say, God, I will not let go. I don't care what happens. I don't care who makes fun of me. I don't care if they call me out for being too holy at work or whatever. I'm just going to keep holding on to you, God, and keep wrestling and holding and clinching on to you because I know you're the God that will never leave or forsake me. I pray safety as everyone goes home in Jesus' name. Amen.